Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church. I'm happy to be with you here today. I'm going to talk a little bit about another miracle that Jesus did. And I want to say about miracles, a lot of people think they don't happen today. I think they do. I think they happen a lot more frequently than we notice. I think that we get so, at least in our culture, we get so obsessed with non-miracles, non-physical things that we kind of think they don't exist. But I've seen many in my life, and I suspect you have too. So let's look at one here from Matthew chapter 5, beginning with the first verse, just a couple of verses here. So Jesus arrived at the other side of the lake in the region of the Gerasenes. When Jesus climbed out of the boat, a man possessed by an evil spirit came out from the tombs to meet him. The man lived in the burial caves and could no longer be restrained, even with a chain. Whenever he was put in chains and shackles, as he often was, he snapped the chains from his wrist and smashed the shackles. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Day and night he wandered among the burial caves and the hills, howling and cutting himself with sharp stones. When Jesus was still some distance away, the man saw him and ran to meet him and bowed low before him. With a shriek he screamed, "Why are you interfering with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In the name of God, I beg you, don't torture me." For Jesus had already said to the spirit, "Come out of the man, you evil spirit." Well, I don't know what I would think if I ran into this fellow. I'd say he was strange and evidently considerably strong. And in Jesus' day, people didn't know much about mental illness. They didn't know much about mental problems and hormonal strengths and that sort of thing. And maybe that isn't what this was. But still, for them, it was a horrible experience to be around this guy. I remember years ago when I was working as a college student in an emergency room, and this guy came in. I don't remember what was wrong with him, but it took six of us to hold him down. And it wasn't that he was all that big. Something was going on in him that made it almost impossible for us to hold him. And I don't think it's necessarily the same thing, but I do understand how this guy in Jesus' day would have scared the daylights out of everybody. And you certainly wouldn't want to be around him. So there's this interesting dialogue here. It says that when Jesus was still some distance away, now I don't understand how this guy really was concerned about Jesus. Maybe he was just concerned about everybody. I don't know. But it says, and I'll read it again, when Jesus was still some distance away, the man saw him, ran to meet him, and bowed low before him. Now, bowing low before someone was an act of submission. It was a response in Jesus' day of, you are superior and I'm not. And it doesn't seem like he did this to anybody else, which was understandable given his strength and his anger and whatever else it was, his craziness. But it says he saw Jesus and he ran to meet him, not to harm him, not to attack him, which is what I assume he normally did around people. But yet he bowed low before him. Now, imagine this. This man who the Bible says was possessed by a demon, certainly an incredibly strange character, saw Jesus and bowed down before him. Now, the story goes on to say that Jesus called the spirit out and he left and ended up sending the spirit into a bunch of pigs who went over the cliff and killed themselves and so on and so forth. But let's stop a second. Just don't go that far. If this man who was uncontrollable could recognize and did by his actions the power of Jesus in the world, why is it you and I have so much trouble sometimes? I mean, think about it. This guy has no reason for anything to bow down to Jesus, but he does. And he does because somehow, some way, he recognized that Jesus was the most powerful person around. The Son of God, he even calls him that at one point. So when we're in a situation that looks impossible, maybe we ought to do what this guy did. Run to Jesus, bow low, and acknowledge him. And acknowledge his power. You see, you and I don't run into crazies like this every day. Well, at least I hope we don't. I mean, that would be stressful to say the least. But we do run into situations that make no sense. You may be in one of those right this very minute, and it literally makes no sense. So what are you going to do? Keep doing what you're doing and still make no sense? Or are you going to give a chance to try what this guy did? To bow down before the Lord and acknowledge him. Now, the neat thing is, I don't know the sequence here because the wording is a little blurry. But whatever happened, Jesus touched this man and changed his life. And Jesus will touch your life and change it as well. All we have to do, really, all we have to do is bow down, not necessarily physically, and acknowledge him. So today I invite you in your world, in your situation, whatever it is, to take a few minutes and acknowledge who Jesus is. Thanks for listening. If you have a need or you have a request for something we can help you with, we'll try as hard as we can, as fast as we can. Just give us a call. Thanks for listening. I'll be back tomorrow and talk about another miracle. God bless you.